Oh, so you're at TPS. I hear that question like there's more you want to say. What's your perception? Please, explain away. But before you do, let me educate you some about my school, my district, and a little bit where I'm from. See, Toledo believes in hard work. Our glass is shatterproof. And at TPS, even at different schools, we're all under one big roof. Our teachers know where to guide us. They have the love and the drive. Many are TPS grads too. To them, it's more than a 9 to 5. They've sat in our seats, walked the halls, and opened that same door. They give all they've got to make sure we're more prepared than we were before. Dr. Durant is TPS proud, beyond the collar and the cuff. He graduated as a Way Indian. It's that 05 that makes him tough. Whether we're getting college ready or prepared to enter our career, we will graduate with cap and gown because of the support we get right here. Surrounded by knowledge and respect, we have the tools to pass any test. So when we hear that tap tap on the sign, it's a heartbeat we feel in our chest. So ask us again if we're at TPS, alone or in a crowd. We won't hesitate to say it loud.
We are
TPS proud!
Good evening. Thank you. I want to welcome everyone here this evening for the 2017 State of the District. It is my pleasure to open this event and welcome everyone to Jessup Wakeman Scott High School. As I'm a proud, and I can't say this enough, I am a proud 1985 Jessup Wakeman Scott High School graduate. You know, I can't say that enough. I'm here because of Scott High School, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be the principal here of my great alma mater. The State of the District address is an opportunity for Toledo Public Schools to provide an update to our community tonight. And our CEO, Superintendent, Dr. Romulus Durant, plans to highlight the district's success, provide an overview on a number of academic initiatives, and outline his plans to address the challenges that Toledo Public Schools continue to face as a district. Now, this evening, Dr. Durant is joined by members of his cabinets, along with students and staff members. And so first I want to address the cabinet members. Mrs. Chris Varwiggs, Board President, Mrs. Polly Taylor Gherkin, Vice President, Mrs. Stephanie Eichenberg, Mr. Perry Lefevre, and Mr. Bob Vasquez. Thank you. Welcome to Scott High School. In addition to that, I want to give a special thanks to our boiler operator, Mr. Fred Kugler, who did an outstanding job prepping, getting everything together for tonight's event. I want to give a special thanks to Ms. Patty Mazer for her tireless efforts to continue to ensure that the communication in Toledo Public School is top notch. And we want to thank you, Ms. Mazer, for that. I also want to take this time to thank our students here at Scott High School who stayed here extra, who's worked extremely hard to ensure that tonight is a successful night. We want to thank our men's varsity basketball coach, Mr. Rodney Taylor, for being here in support, along with our young men on the basketball team here. Welcome you all in as you enter the building. Thank you, fellas. And so once again, welcome all here. And with no further ado, we'd like to bring up our CEO and Superintendent, Dr. Romulus Durant.
Good evening. Good evening. Again, it's an honor and a pleasure to host our second annual State of the District and discussing all the highlights as well as challenges as we progress as a district. But at the same time, we talk about the State of the District. We will also discuss in regards to the State of the District once this leadership team had started 3 to 4 years ago. And so what we're going to do is tackle this state of the district in a different formality from a team approach, because everything that we do within a team and collective work. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to moderate in regard to questions and bring individuals from the cabinet to come up and speak who are ultimately laying out some of this work in the trenches as we continue to move through. So we'll have cabinet members up here, students will be up here, as well as staff members, and in the immediate sharing, switching between one department, we'll be switching to another. There'll be video that will caption some of the things that go on in the district. And so we're going to continue to do that, and we decided to develop a flow, and understanding business and finance impacts the classroom. And then when we move into the next flow, we discuss, in essence, early childhood program, how it impacts the K-12 classroom. And then we go right into the academia, where you begin to see the impact of the finance coming back into the academics. At the same time, begin to see where early childhood impacts the academics. And at the same time, where the academics stand between now and what it used to be 4 years ago. So with that said, before we do in a TPS, I truly a believer of mission and vision. Playing football at the University of Toledo, you did not walk on the field or walk into a meeting, not being able to recite mission and vision, at the same our core values. So under Coach Pinko, I inherited that, so we do that in TPS every day. And then before we start every meeting, whether the staff meeting, my cabinet meeting, or even our committee structure meeting led by the board education to my right, we always start with mission and vision, and the students have inherited and became a major voice in that we have kids reciting the mission and vision, and it never get past me that every graduation there is somebody who's a salute or valedictorian who will recite it and say, mission has been accomplished. So with that said, we're going to bring up the principal of Whittier Elementary, along with Natalia Duran, who is a third grader at Whittier Elementary, and they will come up and not only do mission and vision, but they will also lead us in the pledge.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have you stand in your location as we do so, let's remember Toledo Public Schools' mission
is to produce competitive college and career-ready graduates through a rigorous curriculum across all grade levels by implementing Ohio's new learning standards with fidelity.
And now the vision.
Toledo Public Schools strives to be an A-rated school district whose graduates are college and career ready.
And now if I could have everybody place their right hand over their heart and get ready for the Pledge of Allegiance in 3, 2, 1.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, great job, Natalia. I need to have you come work for us, you know. But again, in essence, we wanted to take the time. They do that in the morning announcements at the schools. But what I always tell people as an industry, imagine your consumer or those that you serve and work for come to you and tell you your mission and vision. And that's what we want the student to know truly in the depths of their heart, that what we do to service them each and every day. So with that said, we wanted to use this moment as a highlight. As many of you recall, last year in the past, Whittier went through a lot of unfortunate situations of having 2 students who passed within a month's time, which was probably one of the hardest things that can happen within a staff as well as a student, and ultimately embracing the death of loved ones to know that those students would no longer be there. And Whittier could have used that moment to fold and not move on. But more importantly, it brought them tighter together with the community. And within that, they had turned a tragedy into one of the highest growth schools within the district, and through that earned Mr. Rimley, who would earn Principal of the Year for last year. So with that said, I'm gonna honor Mr. Rimley with the plaque here. Natalia coming up, we're gonna take a picture. Sit down. Oh, that's it. Thank you again. So as we move into the state of the district, the one thing that I like to remind, and I say, you know what, sometimes we forget what 3 to 4 years was like, particularly new staff as well as those in the community. But coming on board as the superintendent and working with our new team, we had been reminded that at one point in time, we had to cut $100 million out of our budget due to not being able to pass a levy within 15 to 16 years. At the same time, we had completely cut athletics. We had cut many of our programs academic-wise. We had cut busing for the high school, as well as a 2-mile walk zone for elementaries. We had significantly cut salaries, which ultimately led staff to go on to other locations. We had cut our school nurses to a bare minimum that we had nurses trying to cover 2 to 3 different buildings all in one period of time throughout the weeks. At the same time, our business relationships with very few. We had about 60 business partners with very few internships that kids were not getting career opportunity to spend along the side of an expert within the field. At that time, we were only at 60, and we'll discuss where we're at today. And during that time, we were ranked as 4th out of the urban 8 school districts in the state of Ohio. And so our graduation rate was at a mere low at around 62 to 63%. And at the same time, our finances were probably the worst state that they could be, with no understanding that you would have to balance a 5-year budget and cutting out $100 million. You can imagine the impact that it had on the morale of the district as an essence of when you talk about TPS proud, there's a weakness within that. And at the same time, all that was going on while TPS had one of the highest poverty in the state. At the same time, had the highest percentage of homelessness in the state. And when we heard that in the newspaper and the media and the community heard that, they said, we got a crisis. And I said to the media, we have had that crisis 15 or 20 years ago. We've always had the highest percentage of homelessness. We just continue to battle it and continue to take it face on each and every day. Foster care is not even added into the 2,400 students that are in homelessness. Another 360 kids are in foster care. We have more kids now being raised by grandparents than any other time. And at the same time, we had a system was disaligned from the operational aspect that we weren't driving dollars that could be coming back into the district. And at the same time, from an educational perspective, that you couldn't really see the natural flow of progression as kids go through education. But more importantly, what makes them college and career ready? So we're going to start off with the first flow of budget and efficiencies in the district. We're going to bring on Mr. Ryan Steck-Schulte, who is our CFO as well as treasurer of Toledo Public Schools, and Mr. Jim Gann, who is our executive transformational leader of our business operations. Gentlemen, come on forward. So moving on to Mr. Steck-Schulte, he'll be the first again. He's our CFO and treasurer. Mr. Steck-Schulte, could you discuss in some essence of school funding within itself, how it works, at the same time, how we spend our dollars and oversee our dollars. At the same time, there's school districts all across the state as well as in the country always having to put on levies. To be able to speak to that so the community has a better understanding why that is. Hit the bottom.
Schools in Ohio are funded mainly 3 ways. They receive federal funding, state funding, and local funding. Federal funding is very restrictive and has requirements that we have to meet, and there's not a lot of leeway that we have. When we talk funding at Toledo Public Schools, it's in regards to our operating budget, and that is funded through state funding and local funding. State funding, in its simplest form, is we receive an amount per student, and you multiply it by the number of students you have, and that is how much state funding you get. The amount per student right now is $6,010, and it will remain constant for the next year. Once you determine your funding, the state will look at the demographics of your student population, and they will adjust your funding basically for the poverty and other needs, such as students who would be taking career technology classes or in special needs classes. Local funding is relatively simple. It is real estate and property taxes. And so when you get those combined, that's how we receive our funding. The way that we allocate our funding today is we are using the Smarter School Spendings method, which is a program that is going nationwide, where we, the Treasurer's Office and the Curriculum Office, combine and work together to meet the needs of the district and the students. And we review all of our programs on an annual basis, so reading programs, math programs, and make sure that the ones that we are funding are producing the results that we would like to have. If they're not, then we look at how we could reallocate our resources to better align with the student achievement goals of the district. As far as why a district has to request funding on a relatively about every 5-year basis, is that our revenues are flat funded. When we passed the 6.5 mil levy, which generates $13.5 million, it generated $13.5 million back then, and when it's renewed here on November 7th, it will also only generate $13.5 million. So with being flat funded, our budget is like a household budget. Our utilities go up, transportation costs with fuel goes up, our supplies go up, so our expenses are constantly increasing while our revenues are remaining relatively flat.
In essence, as we're sticking in having a conversation about levies, could you discuss the levy that currently is up for Toledo Public Schools?
Currently, we have issue 9, which is a 6.5 mil renewal levy. It will generate $13.5 million. This money is used to keep transportation, increasing our technology. We currently are still striving to reach our goal of one-to-one technology, and it will also help with the other promises that we made in the 2014 of attracting and retaining quality staff.
Also important is we had a performance audit, and within the performance audit, I know in the Treasury Division, we had implemented 2 programs that provided oversight. At the same time, it provided transparency. Could you expand on those programs that we've had and the recommendation of the performance audit that we conducted in years past?
So in the performance audit, there was 151 recommendations that came through that. As of today, we have either completed or are implementing 87% of those. The one recommendation that Dr. Duran is talking about is the Fishbone fraud detection software. This is software that will analyze all of our expenses, our payroll expenses as well as our accounts payable expenses. It runs them through a computer program, gives us a risk analysis, and then we are able to track down the risk analysis to make sure that the fraud is not occurring.
And checkbook?
And we also participate in the Ohio Checkbook. Checkbook is where we place all of our expenditures on the website through the Ohio State Treasurer's Office, and anyone can go on there and review all of our expenses whenever they would like.
Yeah. And through these measures of accountability from our finance perspective and what we do as a service for the community, because they support us to oversee that money, could you acknowledge and kudos to our Treasury Division the award that we received?
Yeah, so for our last audit, we received the State Auditor's Award of Distinction. The Award of Distinction is for a clean audit, and a clean audit means that we had no material citations, no findings for recoveries, no material weaknesses, and we had no federal question cost.
It's great. Great news. And moving from that, as we talk about performance audit, brings us about our chief business operator, Mr. Jim Gant. Could you express some of the things that you've implemented from performance audit as well as help revenue dollars back to the district?
Yeah, specifically, there's about $16 million within our department that the performance audit identified. We have really implemented many of the changes like Mr. Stexelchi said. In addition to that, we've actually enhanced it. So we've done other things that go along with that as well. So for instance, even the move from the Manhattan building over to the new location on Summit, it was projected in the performance audit that we would save about $250,000, over $1 million over 5 years. And we have done that. And we have done many energy efficiency things that regarded in the performance audit. The help from superintendent to the board in approving the expenditures of dollars to save dollars has been tremendous. So we are primary users on our electrical, which allows us to save dollars and reduce some of the costs that we have. So we've been very successful from an operational perspective of implementing the things that has been identified in the performance audit.
Yep. And through these strategies, how did we involve our students into these strategies to engage them as well as save money throughout the district?
You know, one of the things that we do as a business that really we take a lot of pride in is figure out a way to do exactly that. So when we are in front of vendors and contractors to engage business with us, we ask them how are they going to get engaged with our community and with our students. And they're always receptive to doing that. And some of the things that we have done, for instance, we're introducing an LED project where we're changing the lighting out at all the schools. And some of the students have helped with the preparation of that. And we've got another stage coming next year, and the students will be helping with the preparation of that and the implementation of that. So it's an awesome for the business division to be consistent with the team approach of making sure that there's an educational benefit that we provide through our engagement with our vendors.
Yeah, and I know one of the things, we had developed a contest within the district because we wanted some of the strategies we were doing within the school building to transfer into our students by making them a part of it, that they themselves were taking these strategies home. But again, could you discuss the contest we've had as well with our partner at Palmer and Energy?
Yeah, sure. We have done various things with Palmer Energy and some of our other contractors. We did a contest for energy efficiency. So what we basically did is we provided information to the students and to the staff about how to reduce cost from an energy efficiency perspective. And we ran the contest with a few schools, and it was interesting to watch what the students did. So students would call us and say, hey, is there any way for you to cut the lights out for us? And they were dimming the lights in the classroom. And it's interesting, and I would challenge you, and I can challenge myself too, if you take out your electric bill tonight and take a look at it and see if you understand what that means, our students and what we're doing and where we're going will be a better educated population to be able to understand the simple things like your energy bill and what it means to them. So we're going to continue doing that. There's a lot of initiatives that we're going to be doing. We're going to do LED projects, which is going to save the district a lot of money. We're doing some integrations. All the things that we're talking about doing have saved the district, in essence, about $1.5 million. The things that we're going to be doing and implementing within the next couple of years will save the district about $4 million. So we're heading in the right direction, and I would thank the board for a lot of that, because in essence, you have to spend the dollars to make the improvements. And so that has really gave us an opportunity to continue to save dollars.
Yeah, that contest was funny because you had a accountability among staff as well as students. I mean, can you think everybody who had once hosted an iPhone or any type of cell phone, one of the natural habits that we tend to do is leave the charger plugged in. And they were able to gauge how much that was taking up energy within the school and was holding each other accountable. Hey, that shouldn't be plugged in. And they were doing those same strategies at home to rehab efficiency, to where parents were calling and laughing about it, but they truly understood where the child was going with that. And so the money that they discussed as being having oversight and strategically always aligning to students, and the money that's saved is always circling back within the district, that we're saving money to be able to provide more programs. One of the things is we will talk later on is how we progress and provide more program as well as concept schools within the district. We're not going to the community to ask for new money to do those things. We're doing just like every homeowner, every person at home says, save up for 5 years to buy a car, we'll save up for 4 to 5 years to do with a new school, and those are the things that we're doing, and it happens through projects that's happening in the business office and work in the Treasury Division. If we could please give our two gentlemen a round of applause for the work that they do. And with that said, we're going to go right into the next video on energy.
I'm Quentin Reynolds, Director of Maintenance and Operations for Toledo Public Schools. For some of the programs that we have in place now versus what we had in place 5, maybe going back 10 years ago, we've seen a significant improvement in the efficiency and the programs that we have available to run our buildings more efficiently. Before, it was all manually, where we were actually dependent upon people in the buildings to turn off lights, so on and so forth, to do the things that we needed to do. But now through software technology, we actually have the opportunity and the ability to see in real time whether those things are happening or taking place. And with some of the control systems that we have in place, we're actually able to control those remotely versus depending upon someone manually in the building to do the things that they're supposed to do.
So again, as we move on to the next segment of the department, we're going to bring on Dr. Amy Allen, who oversees, she's a transformational leader of our early childhood and special education. We have Dr. Allen aboard. And Dr. Allen, like I said, early childhood is one of the closest things to my heart, and I know it is well to yourself. But Toledo Public Schools develop high-quality early childhood programs, particularly by designating 5-star ratings. Could you please express the importance for children to attend high-quality early childhood programming and the benefits of it?
Sure. We are fortunate to have a lot of research about early childhood, and some things that we know without a doubt are that 95% of a child's brain is developed by the time they are at the age of 6. So we don't get those kids into school until the end of that period at age 5 and 6 in the traditional K-12 model. So we know that it's important for us to reach out and work with families and work with children early on, because that's the critical time when their brains are developing. We also know that we are able to determine at the age of 9 months, believe it or not, 9 months, we are able to identify achievement gaps in kids based on developmental milestones. Because we know we can identify gaps that early, we also need to start interventions to close those gaps as early as we possibly can. So we know that early childhood education, preschool, Head Start, whatever we want to call it, is an important way to do that.
And in essence of Toledo Public Schools, how do we gauge children who come into the school program at kindergarten, and what has been the result of that as we look at kindergartners all throughout the district? As parents turn their kids over to the schools, we always do a baseline assessment to understand where kids are at before we engage in education.
In the state of Ohio, every kindergarten child is required to take what's called the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment, or the KRA. And before we had this concerted effort in early childhood, we were looking at the data from the KRA, and we know that for our district, 80% of children who were coming to kindergarten were testing in the not ready area. Of those 80%, 60% of those children were testing in the range where they needed intensive intervention. So we had kids coming to kindergarten already behind the 8 ball. What we've done as we've implemented these high quality programming is track that data and track the KRA data as kids move through. And we're really excited about the results. Those of us who've been in early childhood for our careers, we're not surprised, but it feels good to be able to share and show that a child who came to one of our early childhood programs scored on average is 3 to 4 points higher on the KRA when they entered kindergarten, which is a great statistic, but the more important statistic that I think is important to share out is that in 3 of our feeder patterns that are Central City, Scott, Waite, and Woodward, we break down that data even further, and we know that it's working for closing the gaps, those achievement gaps. African American males in Scott, Woodward, and Waite who came to one of our early childhood programs scored on average of 10 to 14 points higher on the KRA when they entered kindergarten. So that's the kind of data we look at that validates what we're doing and helps us to know that we are making the right decision in investing in our children early and helping them to grow and develop.
And so, those are some of the challenges I could see as a district that we grow into. As I sit with the business community, and sometimes the business community tries to decide on things like the business model. But I always tell them, if we talk about auto industry, is that there's an assembly line for production of a vehicle. If there's a recall on that vehicle, you can always go to that assembly line and make corrective action. But when your assembly line is made up of a vehicle that starts off with an engine that's already there, and the engine continues to be faulty at the end of the day, you're always trying to improve, but you can never do it unless you're involved with the engine. When we talk about that engine, we're talking about the minds of children. And so the more that we're able to get involved in earlier childhood, so when you're talking about achievement gaps starting at 9 months, we're already behind the 8 ball, and that child is already up behind the 8 ball by the time they get to 6 years of age within the school districts. And so being able to intervene, because the best intervention is prevention, if we could prevent earlier in stages of their lives, the better we have an opportunity, which is why the district is pushing for a universal preschool, which ultimately equalize the playing field for all children. Whether it's low poverty or high affluence, you will have the equalization of education because you've been exposed to the same enrichment through your early childhood development when you get to 6 years of age. But it leads us to the saying that, in essence, we talk about universal preschool, because in the day, TPS, despite having multiple grants, could you speak to the number of students we serve as well as the numbers that we do not serve?
Yeah, one thing that's important to know about early childhood is that by law in the state of Ohio, the only children that are required or permitted to come to early childhood or preschool education at the expense of the state are children who have IEPs. So all of the other children that we serve, we we have to look at different types of funding in order to make that happen. Because the district believes that it's important and because the district is invested in this, we have been fortunate and able to serve almost 1,600 children in our early childhood programs across the district. But I think it's also important to note that when we look at the boundaries of Toledo Public Schools and we look at census data, we have figures that tell us there are close to 10,000 children between the ages of 3 and 5 who live within our district's boundaries. So if you do the quick math, we're serving just about 20% of those children who are in our boundaries. Now, there are other child care centers in our community that are doing great things and helping with children too, but we do believe as a school district, as the largest school district in this area, that we have a responsibility to reach out and push and encourage others to look at preschool and early childhood education as a viable avenue for improving performance in our K-12 system.
And as we talk about the district, could you talk about just within early childhood, the diversity of various funding sources, of how we're able to open up many of these slots? I know TPS, we've done creative things within the district to try to maximize every dollar to add another seat into the classroom.
Because early childhood is not mandated by law, the funding is a little different than you would expect. Mr. Steck-Schulte talked about the per pupil amount that we get from the state for our K-12 children. That's not true for our early childhood children, so we have to look elsewhere for monies. And we have worked hard. We have federal funding in the form of our Head Start grant. We have some state money that helps provide services for our special ed children. And then we also have, as a district, committed to and made a decision to utilize some of our Title I funds to implement preschool classrooms. Title I funds are designed to be used for intervention, and we believe that preschool or early childhood is the ultimate intervention, and that money is really well spent when we use it in the ways that we are with our 3- and 4-year-olds. We also have applied for some grants from the state and have been awarded enough funding for approximately 200 additional children through some expansion money that the state of Ohio makes available. And then what we do is just find ways to creatively put those funding together. We joke sometimes that it's like a patchwork quilt. We have lots of funding sources and we find a way to make that work. But we're very fortunate that we are a large school district doing this because we have lots of opportunities to capitalize on the assets of the school district. For example, in many of our buildings where our preschool or Head Start children are, we don't have to hire additional food service workers because the district already has food service workers. We don't have to hire additional custodial staff. We don't have to pay rent for our space. And every dollar that we save by doing those types of things means more money into programming for children. So it's really a benefit to have a school district that's able to access that much of the funding.
Yep. And I know we're doing our own internal studies and understanding we have Title I budget, Head Start budget, TPS, as well as grant. Could you discuss on some of the pilots we're doing? I think we have half day and full day and some of those things.
Yeah, we have a variety of options. We have some half-day programs. We have some full-day programs. We have some 4-day-a-week programs. We have some 5-day-a-week programs. We have some programs where we are blending some Head Start children with children in our more traditional preschool. Basically, we believe that it's our responsibility to provide a variety of options for children, and that regardless of the option that families choose for their child, that every child who comes through our doors as an early childhood student should be and is afforded the same opportunities as all children. We're separated by program, but that doesn't drive what we do.
Yeah. And so we're a big advocate of early childhood. If you have a child who's early childhood age at home, how could they get in touch and be able to enroll their children into our early childhood program?
We do have an early childhood enrollment office. The enrollment process is a little bit different than it is with the K-12 system, so folks are welcome to contact our early childhood enrollment office at any time. You can find that number on our website. And we have some really skilled people in that office who can walk you through what those different options are and help you make the decision that's best for your child.
And one thing that we're doing in TPS is that we're now waiting on the state or the federal government to begin to understand the true essence of early childhood, we continuously, progressively try to find more money every year and applying for more grants to provide for this. And so it's been a blessing to see the work that's going on, as well as the wraparound care services that are needed beyond just X and O's and understanding 1, 2, 3s and ABCs, but there are things that are going on from trauma and other aspects that these children need services for, and then we're able to meet those needs and get out and have that type of support. So again, I want to thank Dr. Allen for the work that she's done in getting this early childhood opportunity moving. And with that said, we're going to lead right into a video, which is an early childhood pre-K video at Leverett Elementary.
I am a preschool teacher here at Leverett, and we're a pre-K through 8 building. I've been teaching here for 3 years in this program. We have 17 boys and girls in our classroom, and so that is the cap, and then I have a paraprofessional that helps me out during the day. I am just a firm believer that preschool is for all kids, and most kids in suburbia go to preschool. Their parents can afford it, and so they send them to preschool. There's value in it. It's in preparation for kindergarten. Some boys and girls, their families can't afford preschool. Our superintendent is just, really behind early childhood education. And I taught kindergarten for 13 years here in the district. So many came unprepared to learn. They didn't know how to sit still. They didn't know how to walk in line. They didn't know their colors or shapes. They couldn't cut with scissors. They were angry because we were asking them to do things they were ill-prepared to do. I have heard from the teachers that have had, the boys and girls that have had preschool here in our building, that they can tell. They can tell those boys and girls who have had the preschool experience. They are better readers. They're better students.
Again, I'm just a true advocate of early childhood program, been studying it for years, and the Montessori approach to preschool, I was always shocked in essence of how much people who are affluent pay to go to Montessori school, which is almost $10,000 to $15,000 a year. And I think the irony of it is Montessori was designed by the woman of Montessori who designed it for orphanage, meaning the poor, the kids who didn't have homes. And now it's used as a program to serve those who are fluent in money, which showed in regard to how impactful early childhood program is on education. And so we've seen how finance as well as business generate dollars to go back into education, to provide for more programs, to expand our career tech opportunities, and have an impact on education in the children. And we see how early childhood plays a major role in understanding where the gap deficit starts at 9 months, years of age, and how we can strategically get involved earlier on. But ultimately, they come to us by law, 6 years of age in kindergarten, and we have them from K to 12, and in our district, K to 14 and 16 with the advanced program that we have in college career readiness. And so with that said, we're going to bring up our next person, who is Mr. Jim Galt. He is the Executive Transformational Leader of Curriculum and Instruction. And Mr. Galt, just opening right up, to speak on the state report card, in essence, some highlights, as well as challenges. And so just from your perspective, being in the trenches of academics, please speak to some of those things and let us know.
Sure. Well, our goal is to be an A-rated district. When we look at our report card, we're going to continue to keep moving until we have a 100% graduation rate. Our goal is to ensure that every child who walks through Toledo Public Schools maximizes their education. Now, we have a lot of positives that we can talk about. The state of Ohio gives 41 academic tests in grades 3 through 10, including the OGT. Now, TPS increased 33 of those tests of the 41. In fact, the average increase was over 5%, which is leading in terms of our urban counterparts. When you look at our graduation rate, our goal is to get to 100, but I think we need to take a moment and celebrate the successes that we've had. Over the last 3 years, we've increased that by 8%. Our African American students have increased by 11% over the last 2 years. Our Hispanics, 16% over the last 3 years. And we see that if we continue to work our plan, we're going to reach our goal of being at 100%. Now, when you talk about career tech and taking students that have a focus in terms of of wanting to get involved in their education and with internships, etc., that graduation rate jumps to 98% for our seniors. So our goal is to take every child, find their interest, set their goals, and together we'll see that graduation rate and those scores continue to climb.
And as we talk about career tech and the graduation rate, could you speak to the placement rate that our students had and the youth growth that we've had there and the opportunities that happen in career tech?
Sure. Well, we have over 400 partners across the city of Toledo in terms of that are supporting our schools. Many of them have to deal with our career tech industry. We have over 500 students right now that are taking part of internships and job shadowing experiences, getting the skills necessary today for the jobs that are available tomorrow. And as we continue to strengthen our career tech programs, and right now there are over 1,700 high school students in grades 9 through 12 that are in a career tech program. There are over 3,000 7th and 8th grade students who are taking Naviance, which is a computer-based program that will take what your interests are, what your skills are, and provide you a roadmap of what courses you need to take in terms of not only at high school but also at college, what the job market's like here in Northwest Ohio and across our nation, and also what that salary is going to be. So we're working with our 7th and 8th grade students, getting them exposed to careers, gauging their interests, and getting them connected to the over 30 programs we have here in Toledo Public Schools.
And I know there was a highlight yesterday about the EMT program, and I know you were heavily involved with Ms. Lawless. Could you discuss some of that, because it's new to everyone who may have not seen it on the media announcement yesterday?
Absolutely. City of Toledo's and across our nation are struggling to get students that are coming out with the EMT certification that can work within our ambulances, work with our rescue squads, etc. So we looked at our Naviance results. So remember, we're doing this now as young as in 7th grade. And we saw that over 50 students were interested in going into that sort of field. So we reached out to those students and partnered with Lourdes University to develop an EMT certification that our students that are going to graduate in the spring, in January, they're going to be going to Lourdes University, taking college courses, getting college credit at no cost to them, and also walking away with that EMT certification in which they can get a job right out of high school, working with our city, working with our ambulance and other agencies in the medical field.
Yeah. And I know one of the nice things, because we had the city of Toledo involved, police and fire, is that many kids don't recognize coming out of high school, you need to be able to pass the EMT exam in order to move on in the placement of a class. And so that kind of puts our students a leg up on those who have not been involved in EMT. And many of the things what they fire in our police force is that you can only apply for a class until you're 21 years of age, where they lose a lot of kids from 18 to 21. And so this gives them an opportunity to work as an EMT. And if they're interested in going into a class, now they have an opportunity to do so and know that they'll have success in the EMT for the fact that they've lived it over the past 2 to 3 years. Can we talk about, in essence, what we're doing? Because this is Dr. Allen spoke about, over 80% of students coming in kindergarten and the struggles that are going on there, which ultimately we're constantly in intervention mode and making sure those kids are closing the gap, which starts at 9 months. But at the same time, there's the other end of the spectrum, which is our gifted program. And I know we're doing a whole lot of programming with gifted or just average students, that we're having more kids today achieve college attainment than any other time. Could you speak to some of those things that we're doing as well as gifted?
Absolutely. This is some of the things I'm most proud of in terms of where we moved the needle in terms of with Toledo Public Schools. 6 years ago, we started the AVID program here, and we started here at Scott High School. At that time, there were 0 AP courses that were at Scott. Today, we have the students at Scott have access to 6 AP courses here within this building, not to mention the College Credit Plus courses that are online at the University of Toledo, with Owens Community College, etc. When we look at the numbers, we have over 600 students that are taking College Credit Plus, where they're taking college courses at those universities that I mentioned. When we look at the results, the really cool thing about it is that 94% of them, have earned credit, and their average GPA is over a 3.2, which is higher than the freshman rate at the local university. So our students are not only taking College Credit Plus, but they're excelling. And the really neat thing about that is that this is at no cost to them. It's an efficient way in terms of using our tax base or our dollars, because they're getting high school credit and college credit all at the same time. When we look at our AP, number of students that are taking AP courses, that number in a year's time has jumped from over 80 to 203. When we look at honors diplomas, now I got to talk a little about what honors diplomas are. Honors diplomas are students who have a 3.5 grade point average, take at least 2 or 3 years of foreign language, take 4 years of advanced courses in science and social studies, and have a 27 on the ACT. When we look at 1 year's growth, those numbers went from 36 last year up to 81 this year, those students that have graduated meeting those criteria. So as we put plans in place, and we're hitting students' needs and seeing what they're interested in becoming, we're seeing phenomenal growth, not only at the high school level, but also earning college credit.
And so we talk about that nourishing a support system that we talk about adding into the early childhood program. And we went to a K-8 model to continue to have a nourishing school system within the 6th to 8th grade. And then we got to the high school, we realized that there was another jump and gap between coming from elementary to high school. And I know we went about developing freshman clusters and the impact that it had. Can you speak about the freshman clusters and what the work that they do?
Sure. Just as we're getting high school students into college during College Credit Plus, we're also getting our 7th and 8th grade students into high schools. We have over 400 students right now that are taking early high school options, which means that they are getting up early, going to their local high school and taking high school level courses, and then going back into their elementary schools. This gives them a leg up and a head start, so that way as they go through high school, they get the opportunity to take those college courses. Now, 9th grade is the most difficult year for our high school students, and this is not only in Toledo, it's across the state and the nation. Research shows that if students successfully complete the 9th grade year and earn the proper credits to move on the 10th grade, et cetera, that their graduation rate is through the roof. So we put in a plan called freshman clusters, to which we took dedicated teachers who would take groups of students and own those students in terms of have common planning time to make sure that their needs are met. So they're looking at their data, the early warning systems, to ensure that our students have every opportunity to move forward in the 10th grade. And we're seeing terrific growth in terms of, we're seeing core passage rates, moving up into the high 80s and 90%. Because as students move on from 9th grade to 10th grade, obviously their opportunities or their goal of graduating and moving on to either college or career is significantly improved.
And I know one of the things that we do with our own staff as well as that acknowledging to the parents and the family to be able to observe. Could you speak a little about the data dashboard and certain things such as that?
Sure. We want to make sure that our community has access to what our data is. We talk about what our goals are. We want you to be able to see our progress on that. The board has put together a board monitoring system to where all of our goals in curriculum and in business and finance, human resources, et cetera, are all right on our website for you to see that. You can also see our results. We've also started breaking down our school data, some of the numbers that I'm talking about here, where you can go and you can see that right at tps.org. One thing we didn't mention about is student discipline. That's another thing that we're trying to move the needle on in terms of ensuring that students are in school, their needs are met, and they're progressing forward. You can see that in terms of within our data dashboard. We'll continue to keep adding relevant data so our parents, our community members can see the progress that Toledo Public Schools is making.
Well, we appreciate the work that you're doing in our academic section, and we're going to continue to move the needle as we continue to make this alignment happen. I think one other program that may be great to mention that we're having great success in that has to do a lot with our AP expansions, et cetera, and that's our AVID program. Could you speak to AVID and give the community a good sense of what that is and really what's happening with our students in these programs?
Sure. AVID is a program that we have here at Scott High School and all of our other comprehensive high schools except for START, and our plan is to bring AVID to START for next year. AVID takes students that are average students. Many times they're quiet students or they're ones who are squeaking by, who aren't on the radar, and provide them the proper support to ensure that they get the opportunity to take advanced level courses. We bring in tutors from the outside to assist to find out what their conflict is in terms of the problems that they're having within their curriculum. We ensure that they have college visits as we push them to identify what their goals are, and we really talk about being the individual in AVID, that there aren't any excuses, that together by working and supporting, not only from a teacher to students, but also within student groups, that we're seeing these students do an outstanding job of moving into College Credit Plus and AP.
And I know what we've done in the learning communities, we've moved that down from the high school, and now it's embedded into the elementary. We have now elementary where kindergartners are engaged in AVID. And so one part of the AVID that I was very impressed with is the Cornell Notes. Cornell Notes is a note-taking system and strategy that helps kids define and organize their thought process and how they see the information and how they can easily extract the information from studying. But what touched me the most about Cornell Notes was during my master's degree program, I was a tutor for medical students at the time called MCO. They would send the medical students over to me and I would teach and show them how to do statistics, how to understand statistics, which is one of the most apprehensive course of study in a doctoral program and in a master's. And what I began to recognize is that medical students weren't rocket scientists. They didn't have all the common sense and all the other sayings that I thought, we hold on a pedestal. But every one of them showed up with this binder, and I would always ask, can I see your binder? And when I looked through the binder, it was all color-coded, all organized, and every one of them had a various way to organize it based on how they see the health. They had to layer the muscle, they had to layer the artery, they had to do all these ways to separate arteries from veins and et cetera. And it was allowing that to neurologically apply what they write down to paper to the mind, and that's what got them through college. Well, we're providing that same strategy now to elementary students as well as high school students, because if I asked everyone in the audience, how many of you actually learned in school how to truly take notes based on how you see the information? How did you really learn how to take notes that you were able to go back to and find it? I know sometimes in college we write notes and don't know where it's at. We'll search through 100 pages, not sure where it's at. Well, the AVID helps you code it in a way that you pinpoint, go right to where you need to be. And these kids are doing it much earlier on in their educational endeavors. They truly will be college ready as well as what's in their careers. So if we can get a round of applause to Mr. Galt, our Chief Academic Advisor, and get a thank you. And with that said, we have another video of our Aviation Center, and it'll be up playing right now.
We're a 3-year high school career tech program where students not only graduate high school with their high school diploma, but also with a airframe and power plant rating from the FAA, and we've got a good portion of our students that will graduate with a 2-year college degree upon completion of the program. Upon graduation and receiving their certifications, a lot of our students will go straight into the industry, working for a lot of your larger companies, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Delta, a lot of your airlines and so forth. But we get a lot of students as well that will work in corporate aviation. Some will pursue careers being pilots. And many will just work on small aircraft here locally for a while before they venture out and expand their horizons in the aviation industry. A lot of our students are here because they're looking for something different than the traditional classroom. What's great about what we do here is we don't just sit in the classroom and learn about physics and algorithms. We actually, once we go through a curriculum, we actually come out and apply it in our hangar on our aircraft. And using that curriculum in a practical application is what allows these students to retain that knowledge. And a lot of that is what sparks the interest, the fact that they're not just sitting in the classroom learning, they're also using their hands and applying them in a practical application.
Again, one of the things that I'm proud of is our career tech and continuing to advance and develop business relationships that are bringing on much more than ever before internships. That we literally went from 60 all the way up to now having over 200 partners that are providing almost 500 opportunities and experiences for students, which is truly where the essence of teaching and learning happens when you're in the industry. Student teaching, industry, students. When you talk about medical students, you go through medical school, they just don't allow doctors just go out and start cutting people up behind the surgery room, correct? You had to spend 4 to 5 years into a residency before you truly get out into the world of operating on your own, and that's allowing you to operate under a master trained surgeon. And so these are the things that we're looking to do as we work with the local universities for teachers, that we want your teachers in their freshman and sophomore year. We don't want them in their senior year to only have a semester of internship. They need to start developing their interventions as well as a tool of inventory of things that they could do within their classroom starting day one. And so with that said, that brings us to the last group, which is our student perspective. And that we're going to bring up 2 students that we have. We have Cassandra Petrie along with Valentin Ornelas, who will come on up, and they represent Toledo Early College, and we're going to have a conversation with them, so let's give them a round of applause. You guys may share the mic. Okay. So as I speak between the two of you, yeah, that is a microphone. Is it on? Yeah, it's on. Yep. And so tell us about the early college opportunity, the school that you go to. Let maybe parents that may not have their children there or trying to decide on where they're going to send their children for the high school experience. Could you please tell us about early college and what it makes it different than other high schools?
So Toledo Early College, it's rated number 1 in the district and 23 in the state. And at this school you have, well, for me, it gives me confidence because you do different things that you wouldn't do at a normal high school. Like you have a lot of presentations, you're taking college classes with college students, and you're actually on the campus learning. And Toledo Early College, now it allows you to get an associate's degree. So for example, when I graduate, I hope to have an associate's degree in nursing from that school. And it saves a lot of money, around $30,000. And from that, you get to work with different teachers and you get to make new experiences.
Wow. Mr. Valenti?
Also, apart from being college ready, taking college classes, it also helps you grow as a person when you're a student there. We're really a diverse school, even though we're really small, but like I said, we're really diverse. We have students from all over the world, culture. Then we even have a specific event. It's called International Festival. And we get to learn about different cultures that are at our school. And I feel like that's something specifically at Toledo Early College that happens. I don't know of anywhere else where we could meet so many different people at a young age. And all the people who go to Toledo Early College will most likely, at least I hope so, be successful. So so it's a great way to network if you want to pursue something in the future, meet new people, and it gets you ready for college. And I feel like it also gets you ready for the real world because you meet a lot of different people.
And so I think Cassandra makes a great point. Again, as she said, that she will walk out with an associate degree in nursing upon graduation. And many of the kids will earn up to 30 plus, and some will earn 60 plus. And there's over 12 associate degree tracks that we have in Toledo Public Schools. So the kids over at Toledo Early College are on the accelerated track, and then there's the traditional, you're able to do the same in an associate degree as well. But again, I think it's important that knowing that kids are learning more, not to just get a diploma, but ultimately get a degree as well. So Cassandra, if we could talk about how does Toledo Early College prepare you for the future? How do you see the school itself prepare you for your future?
Well, for one, like I stated before, it has given me confidence, and in the future, when you're applying for a job or if you're at a job interview, you're gonna need to be able to display confidence and show that you're okay with talking to other people. So for that, like the presentations and whatnot, it helps it helps give me confidence. And along with that, you're working with a lot of different people at the school, and not everybody has the same background as you, just like out in the real world. So I say both of those things help prepare me for the future.
That's great.
For me, I would say Toledo Early College helps me prepare for the future the college classes I feel like are the thing that helps us be prepared the most. And well, actually the high school classes, because they're tougher than the college classes. I'm being completely honest. Like, well, all our high school classes are extremely difficult. But once we get to our college classes, it's easy. And so Toledo Early College prepares us for the future by helping us become better students and become better leaders, help us become organized. You mentioned that we haven't learned how to take notes. Well, we actually have a class on that our freshman year on how to take notes, how to study, how to become organized. And I feel like that's essential for anybody. And yeah, our curriculum is very specific to becoming better.
Mr. Valentine, let's talk about if you could share with because you've done your own internship, so you've already gotten into your internship. It's been a great relationship that I've been able to have with the Blade and with Mr. Murray particularly, and I know you've had your internship this past summer. Could you share with the community about your internship as well as what you do at Toledo Early College through the program itself?
Oh, yes. I run the school news website for Toledo Early College. I started planning it almost three years ago, my sophomore year, and I got in contact with the Blade, and I asked them for help because my principal, Ms. Berman, she showed me an article that showed that the Blade had helped other TPS schools. And so I contacted the managing editor of the Blade, Dave Murray, and we started a school news website. And so we did that for a year. I mean, it's still going on, but we did that, and he offered me and two other students, one from Scott and one from also Toledo Early College, a summer internship. And what I was doing was I was a city desk reporter, so I wrote about things that were happening around here in the Northwest Ohio area. And I also worked briefly for the web desk and helped with their social media, helped them, with whatever they needed to do, if they needed maps on places to eat or something, something to help them with their social media. So I really enjoyed it. It helped me see if I would want to go into journalism or not. I wrote a lot of stories, and I think that was the best part, was just meeting new people and seeing how many things are going on in the area here, but no one really knows about it because, which I feel like is important. So it was really fun, especially to be. We were one of the first teens to ever have a summer internship there. So it was fun.
Yeah. And to add to that, just as he had just stated, Dave Murray has launched 3 of them. One at Scott High School called Life of a Bulldog, over at Toledo Early College, Life of an Acorn, and over at Start, Life of Spartan, and he gives his own time to do that. And what's unique is we continue to develop and strengthen our relationship. The Blade normally takes interns from Yale, and that's been their past practice. So you can imagine all of a sudden now they're going to be taking high school students, and they're going to all of a sudden break the norm and bring them in, and they did just that. But more importantly, they gave me updates, and we're just amazed the impact that these 3 individuals had at their location. I think one of them had completely revamped their computer technology system based on him being of a different age and obviously understanding technology much more advanced, took it to a whole nother level, and people were just shocked. But it showed the value. Sometimes we underestimate our teenagers because they have much more to offer in our adult world. And then to go back to Cassandra, could you talk about nursing? You're looking to get that associate degree. Tell us about, what your steps are. I know some people are looking to progress after the associate, and what's your plans?
Okay, so going into freshman year at Toledo Early College, I had no idea what I wanted to do until I took a class called FYI. It's a college class, and in that class they discussed different majors, and one of them was nursing. And then after hearing about it, I realized that I wanted to be a travel nurse, and I saw that nursing was offered as an associate's degree at our school. So they give us a pamphlet. It was at the beginning of our freshman year. And in that pamphlet, it tells you the specific courses that you need to take in order to get your associate's degree. So as of now, I'm taking the required classes that I need for my high school, like at the college level, so government, composition 1. But then I'm also taking Intro to Statistics, so then I can get that out of the way. And then going into my second semester of my junior year and my senior year, I will be focusing on getting all the credits that I need for nursing.
That's great, and we'll support you in your endeavor. And if you need a tutor in statistics, just let me know. With that said, can we give one more round of applause to our students here? Thank you. So as we close out, I always like to take things back into perspective, in essence, what we're doing as a district. Again, as you can see how we used our operational side of things as well as our mindset of how to best utilize our efficiencies as well as financials to be able to revenue, to bring all that back to circle back into education. But more importantly, understand that we continue to have the guiding conversation, bringing about the conversation about early childhood education, which has been shown one of the greatest revitalizer as well as strategy to do away with the achievement gap. I always tell people all the time that Martin Luther King said education is the greatest equalizer, but there's nothing equal if kids start every year 6 years of age with an achievement gap between their counterparts of a more affluent family. And that then ultimately to be able to resolve that, to make sure that every child had the right opportunity to be at the right starting point of their educational endeavor, we have to get involved much more earlier on in age. As Dr. Allen had mentioned, at that 9 months of age, you are beginning to see the gap within itself. And as the time continues to separate, the gap continues to get wider. And so what they do is you find yourself, when I say intervention mode, we find kids going through years in and years out of intervention of always trying to catch up. And so our saying with TPS that we're developing strategies of providing interventions continuously in elementary as well as the high school side of things. But more importantly, having our kids discuss and have conversations about career pathways much more earlier on than waiting to have college people or students enrolled in college not clear on a major. And so that's what Naviance is doing. Naviance is bringing our kids, and we're assessing them at 7th grade. And it's a career builder that says, here are your strengths, and here are all the careers and majors aligned to your strengths. And so kids are now discussing interest and doing studies and research on the things in their strengths, and they're coming out and saying, this is what I want to major in. And at the same time, we're able to align them with over 30 career tech offerings within the district that say, we have a program just for you. And so within that, as we continue to expand our programs, as we continue to expand our opportunities of kids going to schools that have a complete focus around that opportunity. So when you talk about Toledo Early College, that's a complete focus on early college. When you talk about Toledo Technology Academy, that's a complete focus on engineering and robotics. When you talk about Jones Leadership Academy, it's a complete focus on business. They get an associate degree in business. And as we continue to move on, we're looking at having conversations about aerospace and agricultural, schools of its own with a complete focus on those interests. And at the same time, we move towards more STEM schools, which inclusive of medical, within the STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine, making sure the East Learning community is represented of an elementary that supports that endeavor. The kids are pipelining through that right into their career choices. And at the same time, continuing to build our business relationship. Because at the end of the day, if the business world is not involved, education will dwindle because kids see no essence and importance of it. 98% graduation rate of kids who are already in a career tech program. So the conversation we're having in what's in our high school to say, as kids continue to come through, there is a choice that they're going aggressively the college route, College Credit Plus, or AP, or they're going to find a career tech route and understand that there's an opportunity through that just as well. But those career tech students still have an ability to get an associate degree because many of those programs have one attached to it with Owens as well as some of our other community colleges. Like I told you a little bit ago, we have over 12 associate degrees offered within TPS through our partnership with our local colleges. And at the same time, truly making the district, where we talk about college and career ready, but being one of the most comprehensive school districts in Northwest Ohio in the state, because some of the schools that we're looking to open up, we will be the first in the state to do it, and only a handful across the country. I tell you to stay tuned to the news because we're going to continue to pump out differences. But more importantly, what we like to say is that we're going to generate these schools and these opportunities by taking the dollars we have within our district and saving over what we've done over these 3 to 4 years to do it ourselves and not asking the taxpayer to go in their pocket and give us more money if you want to see this endeavor happen. And so we're continuing to explore that, as well as finishing and wrapping up conversation about what it looks like with a Matt-Whitney approach coming back on board with a much more advanced approach. They're talking about robotics taking over much more than people. Well, then our kids need to be ready for robotics if they truly want to be on the front end of this success. And so all this happens within TPS. But I want to take this time right now to acknowledge, and I want to see if you're still here. Do we have Mr. Crystal Ellis? Dr. Crystal Ellis, are you still here today? Dr. Ellis, come on up. Don't hide on in the back. I want Dr. Ellis to come on up. I want to take a moment to thank Dr. Crystal Ellis, because Dr. Crystal Ellis was my superintendent when I was in high school. Now, he didn't give a... Now, I might hold against you because you didn't give us as much snow days as I've been giving out. I done walked through some stuff to get to school, but I still went, Dr. Ellis. Just want to let you know I did. But at the same time, I want to thank you because just as I tell our staff to be role models to our students and et cetera, you have been just that to me. And at the same time, I tell people that there is no Dr. Duran if there is no Dr. Ellis, because Dr. Ellis started the pathway. So I want to thank you for all your years of service and appreciation and how much you have meant to myself, because again, you were the first to do so at the first African-American superintendent, and then Dr. Sanders and myself, but you have been a bricklayer and a support of these endeavors. So thank you for being an influence on my life, as well as many of those who are throughout the district. And again, thank you for being TPS proud. Thank you.
I want to say one word. What an evening to listen to the progress that we're seeing and hearing about at Toledo Public Schools. And in essence, it's an intellectual road that I used to say more specifically and more simply to students when I was principal at any of the 7 high schools that I was principal of in Toledo. And my favorite words were, particularly at the high school level, I come here not to beat you down, I come here to beat you up. And the students started to recognize that behind that is, I can't go down, I've got to go up. And as a result of that, the school started to change. What I've heard here this evening is a superintendent who I signed his diploma when he was at Wade High School, graduating from Wade High School. How proud I am. And I see him doing it in an age and a time where technology and modernization and all the things that are needed in today's world, he's in the process of not beating our students down, but he's beating them up. To his staff and to all of you, board members and educators, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud that my life was spent helping children in this city, because this is home. And that's what I believe Channel 13 says, this is home. And we want to keep it that way. Thank you. And I am supporting that levy and will be speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, President. So one last thing is we always leave out, just as you saw in the video with the students, I'm going to say we are, and I want to hear it say TPS proud. Loud and clear in order for my security to let you out. We are. TPS Proud. We are. TPS Proud. We are. TPS Proud. Thank you for all you do. Hope you get out to support Issue 9, support schools. Thank you again. Have a good night.